Only Israelis could commit genocide for years and then demand sympathy, and other notes. Never forget October 7th, 2023, that fateful day when Israelis were brutally massacred by Israeli tanks and Israeli helicopters and Israeli drones and Israeli soldiers and Israeli bullets, and also by Hamas a bit. I'm sorry, but it's just plain hilarious that we're still expected to hate Hamas after spending 2 years being shown exactly what it was that Hamas has been fighting. Only Israelis could spend 2 years committing genocide and then demand everyone feel very, very sorry for them on the anniversary their genocide started. Hamas commander: put the baby in the oven. Hamas fighter: one of these 40 beheaded babies? Hamas commander: no, cook a different baby. Leave those 40 beheaded babies in the pile. Hamas fighter: Heil Hitler. Hamas commander: Heil Hitler. Turns, explodes 200 cars with a grenade. The thing about October 7th is that if Israel supporters are going to insist on using it to justify everything that's being done in Gaza, then the rest of us have no choice but to refuse to give a fuck about it. If someone is using something as a weapon to hurt people, then you need to take their weapon away. If sympathy about October 7th is being weaponized for genocide propaganda, then you have an ethical obligation to withdraw your sympathy. I don't enjoy mocking and dismissing people who try to harness sympathy for October 7th. It wasn't particularly fun raining on the big sympathy parade the Hospirists threw for the second anniversary as they make a desperate effort to win back some of the global support they've been hemorrhaging all year. That's just what you need to do when people are using something to facilitate crimes against humanity. It would be irresponsible to do otherwise. CNN's Van Jones, who in 2021 was given an unconditional $100 million by Jeff Bezos, recently came under fire for claiming that people oppose the Gaza Holocaust because Iran and Qatar are running a massive disinformation campaign to show people dead babies in Gaza. He made a joke about how everyone's seeing dead Gaza baby on their phones, which cracked up Bill Maher's studio audience. This is one of the ugliest, nastiest pieces of Western media propaganda about the Gaza Holocaust that I have ever seen, and we're 2 whole years in. Only someone who thinks dead Gaza baby is a hilarious punchline would believe people need to be tricked by foreign influence campaigns into caring about dead babies in Gaza. Someone who is truly and sincerely worried about a rise in anti-Semitism will oppose the mass slaughter of children under the Star of David banner by a state which claims to represent all Jews, while Jewish billionaires buy up media to silence criticism of that state, and Jewish oligarchs openly purchase the president of the world's most powerful government to ensure the facilitation of that state's atrocities. Progressive darling Zohran Mamdani has come out and described Venezuela President Nicolas Maduro and Cuba President Miguel Diaz-Canel as dictators, just as the Trump administration ends diplomacy with Venezuela in yet another step toward possible war. So that's some nice timing. The Democratic Party is a U.S. empire party. The very best Democrats just want a slightly more polite and humanitarian empire. All of them support war and militarism. All of them support the subjugation of the global South by tyrannical force. Everyone needs to get clear on this. There's a tweet by Republican commentator Isabella De Luca. Quote, "Here is a map of fertility rates. You should all be alarmed." And the map shows much lower fertility rates in majority white nations. It's funny how white supremacists freak out about global birth rates, because it's just the result of white supremacism getting everything it wanted. Whites spent centuries extracting wealth from the global South, and it turns out fertility rates decline the wealthier a population becomes. They plundered and exploited and enslaved and extracted from the darker-skinned people whom they viewed as inferior, and now those populations are the only ones reproducing at above replacement levels. They're freaking out because they understand their civilization will come crashing down without working-age people stepping in to keep the gears of the nation turning as prior generations age out. And now the only way they're going to get those workers is by inviting them to immigrate from other continents. Those immigrants will have significant collective bargaining power because they are needed. They won't just remain some permanently subjugated underclass. Eventually, they start intermarrying with the white population, and before long, humanity consists of lovely shades of tan. White supremacism loses, ultimately because it got everything it has ever asked for. This is one reason why there's so much overlap between white supremacism and Christian fundamentalism, by the way. White supremacists understand that they can't have wealthy, educated women choosing when they do and do not reproduce, because it turns out having and raising children is a massive ordeal, and a woman with rights and resources will only sometimes feel safe and supported enough to do it. So they need to find ways to turn them back into a man's property and force them to churn out white children. This is also a lot of the drive behind all the trad wife stuff, the incel stuff, the anti-abortion stuff, and the your body, my choice rape apologia you see on the far right. White supremacists are searching for ways to bump up white birth rates against the wishes of women. White supremacism is unworkable without male supremacism. This is also why you see racists like Elon Musk simultaneously freaking out about declining birth rates and pushing AI like their life depends on it. They understand that automating society is the only way to stave off the future wave of immigration that will otherwise be necessary to keep civilization functioning. But it turns out that AI is a bust, and that bubble is going to burst before long. Again, white supremacism loses in the end. I saw a good tweet from Rage Against the Machine's Tom Morello saying, "It's wild how people can effortlessly understand the righteousness of everybody from Robin Hood to Andor, and then in real life simp for the Sheriff of Nottingham and the Death Star." This happens because in Robin Hood and Star Wars, the storyteller is sympathetic to the rebel characters, while the pundits, editors, and reporters who tell the stories of our time are sympathetic to those in power. David Attenborough can get you cheering for the seal or for the polar bear, depending on whose journey is being followed as a sympathetic protagonist. The narrators in our stories are those who control the narrative.